everybody. Welcome to Back Burner. I'm Chef Paul. I'm the food service director at Colorado Academy with Sodexo. Welcome to Street Taco Night. I'm really excited about tonight. I think everybody should know that we do have a waiting room tonight and that all your lines are muted, and I'm asking families to just stay muted. Last week we had a lot of background noise and things got a little confusing, and I tried not to show it, but it's great if everybody can stay muted. And thanks for joining us, and let's get started. All right, so tonight, the first thing we're going to do over here at the stove is I've got my pan for my pickled onions. So I've got a non-stick pan, and I'm going to turn on to about 5. I've also got right here, I did some ahead of time, but I've got about 2 tablespoons of corn oil in another pan, and I'm going to turn that about halfway onto 5. So I've got 2 of these on 5 right now. I have my refried beans. We like the no-fat zesty ones. I've got them in this pot, a little lime juice, just to loosen them up. And I'm going to turn that one on about 1 because I want this to come up nice and slow. If it gets too thick, I'll just add a little water. I've got another pan right here, a nonstick pan for my fish, and we'll come back to that later. All right, so what we're going to do first is get things going for our pickled onions. So you can see right here I've got I kind of started ahead of time. So we've got Pico De Gallo started, some cilantro, our limes, yellow onion, 2 red onions, garlic cloves, and a couple tomatoes to demonstrate how we're going to do our pico and jalapeno. All right, so let's get started with our pickled onions. I'm going to cut both ends off. Want to remind everybody while we're doing this that my hands are clean, my knife has been cleaned and sanitized, all the vegetables have been pre-washed, and remember to be safe. The kitchen is a fun place to work, but we want to make sure that we can come back safe every day. I do have on because I'm on my feet all the time, I do have a good pair of shoes on. And here we go. All right, the onion, remember, it grows in the ground like this, okay? So I want to take this onion, and we are not going to dice this one. I'm going to put it on its side. This is for the pickled onions. I'm going to go, I got my fingers, remember I got my fingers tucked back. I got my thumb tucked in. And I'm coming straight down, about as thin as I can. Gets a little tricky towards the end. All right, now I'm just going to put my palm up so that I still get my rings out of that. Okay. Now I'm going to break these up ahead of time. These are like the pickled onions that you get when you go to a street taco restaurant. This is what the vinegar on the ingredients list and the sugar is for. All right, so I've got my onions. I got my pan getting hot. Just a little bit of sizzle. I don't have any fat in this pan. I want my onions to cook on their own without any extra fat or oil, okay? So we're going to let those go for a bit. Now we're going to check the oil for the tortillas. That's not quite ready. We want these to caramelize. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. Right here, I used balsamic vinegar, golden or a white balsamic vinegar, and sugar. And I have a little salt and pepper in here. And basically you want equal parts. So on the recipe, I wrote 1 tablespoon sugar, 1 tablespoon of a white vinegar. I tried a white vinegar and didn't care for the taste, and so I grabbed some golden balsamic. You could use rice, you could use whatever you wanted. Okay, but what we're going to do to these onions is let them sweat and caramelize, and then we're going to hit them with the vinegar. Okay, and those will be a topping. All right, these are my corn tortillas. I did some ahead of time. You can see here, this is before and after. All right, we don't want to make them too much. We still want to make them pliable so we can bend them. We're not making chips. Okay, so I'm going to test my oil. My oil is looking like it's ready. So we're just going to do one of these right now to show you. This is just for a corn tortilla. If you've got flour tortillas, you don't need to do this step. And all we're doing is by putting them in the oil, we're taking some of the moisture out. So they're going to be crunchy. So you could actually make a bunch of chips this way, but that's not what we want to do. We still want to be able to fold this taco after we've made it. So you can see right here, I did some ahead of time. Just lightly golden brown. I'm going to turn my onions up a little. Just trying to time this for everybody back at home. I hope everybody's had a good week and has enjoyed the weather. I know we have. Next week looks like snow. So I'm thinking about what to cook for next Friday's dinner. Okay. I did not put anything in the onion pan, just the onion. This is just onion right here. I didn't put anything in here yet. So they're going to sweat on their own. Okay, whoops. All right. So that's how you do the corn tortillas. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the diced onion again. So this is going to be one of our toppings. So I've got a really gigantic yellow onion here. I want to cut down it grows in the ground like this. So here it is in the dirt, just for a demonstration. I'm going to cut that root bulb off. I'm going to spin it around. Okay. I prefer to peel these with the back of my nail. I've got myself a little trash bin on my counter so I don't have to walk back and forth to the trash can all the time. Got a good sized onion here. I got my knuckles down, cut it in half, put that side. So now what I want to do is put my knife about halfway through it. Not halfway through it, but all the way. I'm not going to cut through the onion. I'm going to go to about right here. I got my palm up. If my palm's right here, what happens? If I push that knife through, I'm going to have an accident. So I got my palm up. I got it near the corner of the board. See that here? I'm going to do it twice because it's a big onion. Okay. Now I'm going straight down. There's also a demonstration on the CA YouTube channel on how to cut an onion. It kind of does this a lot slower for you. Now when you get to the end here, it's going to be a little tough for it to stand up. So I roll it over. I hit it about 3 times, 90-degree angle. Make sure your knives are sharp. There you go. That's one of our garnishes. More people get cut on a dull knife at home. Yeah, those are strong. My son Hunter and I are suffering from strong onions on the cutting board at the moment. Making my eyes water. So we're going to move these across the kitchen. I'm going to wipe this down. Now remember, if I were at work, I'd be cooking for all of the kids at school, and we would have a cut glove on. We'd be have a cut glove on, plastic glove on, but I'm at home. I know everything's been washed. We're all in the same boat here, and this is not a professional kitchen. This is a home kitchen, so we are doing it home style. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut some of our limes. Now I'm going to save one of the limes for garnish for the plates. These are also washed. I cut it right down the middle. Now lay it on its open side. Now I've got this pith in the middle. I'm going to just cut that out like this. Now I've got wedges for the plates, or maybe put it into a glass of water. But when I cut this out, it makes a nice professional looking restaurant style cut for you there, okay? So we're going to cut this whole lime. Can also do the rind up. I prefer to do it with the rind down. You can see I have a little difficulty with that, so I'm just going to put the rind down, cut it 3 times. Okay. I'm going to check my onions. They're a little hot. They're browning a little uneven because I was not standing over them. I want them caramelized. I'm going to turn this way down. Let me remove this. So I don't have any oil or fat in here, which may seem unusual to some people, but I also have a nonstick pan. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my vinegar and sugar. So I've removed these from the heat, and I'm going to turn those off. The sugar is going to caramelize on there, and the vinegar, if you inhale that steam coming off, it's very strong. Okay? So we've got our garnish limes right here. Now, the remainder of these limes we're going to use for juice. So here's a good way to juice a lemon. I'm going to put my palm down on the lemon, and I'm going to roll it. So you can see now it's really squishy inside, kind of like a rubber ball. Okay? So I'm going to do 2 of those. I'm going to cut them in half. Okay, and and I'm just going to set those aside for now. We're going to work on our Pico De Gallo. So I do have about 6 tomatoes already done here for us. I want to take my red onion, similar to the yellow onion we just did. I'm going to dice this. Whoa. Remember, it's okay to not be perfect. We're all learning. And here's another demonstration on dicing an onion. So I've got my onion on its side. Again, I'm only going to go through the onion to about right here. I'm going to pick one spot. I got my palm up, and I'm not going to go through. So here's a demo. Now, because this is smaller than the yellow onion we just used, I don't need to go through twice. I'm going straight down. I got my fingers tucked. I got my thumb back. This is how we make something round square in the kitchen. See how it's this is kind of falling over on me, so I want to lay it on its side so I'm not dangerous. Cut it about 3 times. Keep it together as best you can. 90-degree angle. Cut up the rest of that. We're going to add all this onion. Because I ended up with a large yellow onion and a pretty fairly large red onion, I'm only using half. All right, now we're going to go back to cutting our tomatoes. So if you weren't here first week when we did pasta, this is a bird's beak. It's a French style knife. It's very sharp. This is the blade right here, and this is the back. So I'm going to cut the vine part of the tomato out. I'm not going to put my thumb down here because I might come down on top of it. So I have my thumb up here. I'm going to spin the tomato and pop that right out. So let's do it one more time. Just roll the tomato. All right. I'm just going to step back here and check on my refried beans. They're good. Okay, so I don't need my bird's beak anymore. I'm going to put that down. So now I've got a tomato. And I'm going to dice it. So I'm going to set it up on the top. Coming straight down. Okay, that happens. Right, so I want to keep it together. Make one more cut. Now I've got it, I've got 3 slices here. I'm going to come straight down. '90-degree angle. Come straight down. One more time. There you go. All right, so now we've got, hopefully you're working in a team and somebody can keep cutting tomatoes. So this is for our Pico De Gallo. I like to always make a lot of Pico De Gallo because we like to go back the next day and have chips with Pico De Gallo. That's something we like to do here. So the next thing I'm going to do is clean my board, wipe up my knife a little, and I've got my cilantro. So the cilantro in the store comes in a bunch like this. You can get really, really attentive to the cilantro, or you can be a little quicker. So what I like to do is being careful not to cut this twine. I cut that right out and discard that. So now you can see with the cilantro, you've got thicker stems and thinner stems. I'm going to use, looking at what I have here, I'm going to use about half. Okay, so if I chop this all up now, I'm going to end up with a lot of this in my teeth. So what I want to do is pull that off. Now these little pieces up here, these are fine in my opinion. My professional opinion is that we can eat those. But these tougher ones are a little much, so what I do is I grip the end of the cilantro and I just pull those right off. This will take a minute. Remember that these have been pre-washed at home. We're doing our best. But if you do this, you're going to be here all night. Okay? So we don't want to have to take too much time. We want to be efficient. We want to, this is a good exercise for some of the younger kids, or maybe somebody who doesn't want to be too involved, but enjoys their time in the kitchen. So this will take a minute for me. I can smell my onions behind me, which are awesome. I can smell my refried beans getting warm over here. All right, so now I've got a nice bunch of cilantro, and I'm going to show you how to chop this up. So what we want to do is bring it together as tight as we can. We're going to do a series of chopping motions all the way across. So you want to do this as thin as you can, keeping your fingers back while they crawl in front of your knife. Okay, it's not perfect, right? There's still some pieces. And then bring it back together. Go the other direction. See how it spreads out? You can just scrape it back together. And depending on your style, you can chop this really, really, really fine, or you can leave it kind of chunky. Like in a guacamole, I like it a little chunky. In today's pico, I like it a little chunky. So see that? Cilantro sticks to about everything. So I'm going to take a paper towel, clean my space up. I am going to go back to the sink and rinse my knife off. I'm just pushing away from the blade. I don't want to come up on the blade. This water is super hot. All right, so now we've got some garlic, right? So this is a garlic bulb. It grows in the ground like this. So it's easiest if I take a towel, and I'm going to crush this on its side. So I want to get over the top of it. There we go. Got a container here for later. So I want to separate all my garlic about. So I've got here my garlic cloves. See how easily that broke apart? Then I can store it in the refrigerator like this, and I can take out what I need when I need it. Okay, so I want to take, because of their size, I want to take about 3 of these. And first thing I want to do is right here, is I want to cut that piece off. That's where they all hold together. Okay. Now, being very, very careful and using the back of my hand, I have my knife on top of the garlic. I have my blade pointed down, and I'm going to smash it. One more time. This will make it easier to peel. Okay, so now it comes right off. It's much easier than digging your nail in, and the garlic is very sticky. So I also found that when I'm doing a lot of garlic, this is a much faster way to do it, as well as cheaper than buying chopped garlic. So now I've got 3 garlic cloves ready to chop. Keeping my fingers back and my thumb tucked. I just want to keep going back and forth, just like the cilantro in a line, to make it minced garlic. Some of it's going to stick to your knife because it's a very sticky root veg. It's got good smell, aroma to it. We're going to put that right in. Okay, so now what we need is our jalapeno. Now the jalapeno, I also want to wash, I gotta rinse this off, it's a little sticky. Now the jalapenos that we get in Colorado are okay, but if you're in another region of the world, like Southern California or Mexico, they're a lot hotter. So be very careful with yourself. So I'm going to cut this piece of the jalapeno off. This is the stem. We don't need that. And I'm going to cut it in half. Okay. Now I can do this with my chef's knife, or demonstrate it with a smaller knife today. So I've got my bird's beak, and I want to cut out this membrane and the seeds. Be very careful with a very hot jalapeno. You may want to wear a pair of gloves or use a different cutting board. In the restaurants I worked in, I once had a buddy cutting jalapenos in California and made the mistake of itching his face. And he got a jalapeno seed in his eye, like a contact, and we had to send him home because his eye burned. So be very careful, all right? I've got my seeds out of the way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut this as thin as we can, turn it to a 90-degree angle for a nice dice, okay? Got my thumb tucked. I got my fingers back. All right, see that? Got my fingers tucked. I got my thumb tucked back. Now we're going to go to a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to go as close as I can to make them a nice fine dice. All right, so I've got my Pico De Gallo right here. Smells really good. Okay, I think I've got all my ingredients in here except for my lime juice. So I've got these limes that I crushed earlier, remember? And now they're kind of squishy. So I'm going to take this lime and I'm going to squeeze it as best as I can. I've got 2 limes for this because it's April and not July, so they're probably not super strong. This one's good. You see that? That's a good one. It smells delicious. Now what I want to do is incorporate all these nicely diced and minced ingredients together. This will be awesome. Now, assuming that the jalapeno is not very hot, here's a couple of my secrets. I'll put chili flakes in here. These are the same kind of chili flakes you'd find in a pizza parlor, an Italian restaurant. This is also a favorite of mine is the Tabasco Chipotle. So the jalapeno I know is not very hot, so I'm going to kind of play the advantage, add a little extra in there. Okay, and I also need my salt and pepper, which I have right here. All right, so now our Pico De Gallo is ready. I want to remember that my onions are done, that my tortilla, my corn tortillas are done. You can also use flour. I also bought 5-inch flour tortillas. I also bought 8-inch flour tortillas, or not 8-inch, 12-inch, 8 in a pack, because we like to make burritos too. So I'm going to check my refried beans. They're nice and warm with the lime juice in there. They're nice and pliable, so I'm going to turn that almost completely down. Now, what I also have over here is, this is Queso Fresco. This is milk cheese, Mexican cheese. I really like this a lot. And this will crumble. So you can see this is how it comes. And look at how it crumbles up like this. This is fantastic. And when you go to your taco restaurants, this is the queso fresco that they put on top. So we like to keep that separate. And then I will keep it in this container, and I'll label it and keep it in the fridge. So for tomorrow's taco or burrito snacks, I'll have my cheese ready. I also have right here, I bought a little slaw kit, Fiesta Lime slaw kit. It's pretty good. I think what I could do to make this better is I'll add a little bit of my pico to it. Give it a little zest. Okay, so now we're going to be ready to pan-sear our fish. I also have some chicken that I did ahead of time on the grill. For my chicken, I grilled it up. I used a little pollo asada spice on this. So this is cold. I can heat that right back up, or I can grill it and bring it right back out. For my fish today, I bought some white cod, and I actually took carne asada, which is intended for beef, but I put it on the fish because I like it nice and spicy. So I've got my pan getting hot. While my pan's getting hot, here's something else I did today. Was my family and I enjoy grilled corn. But what we do with the corn is we put a little oil on it, we grill it up, we sprinkle some chipotle roasted garlic seasoning on here, or if you like straight cayenne, you can put cayenne on that, and sprinkle it with a little lime juice before you serve it. Okay, I should have turned my pan on a little ahead of time, so we're waiting on that. Grab a plate for service. Just to get things ready, I've got my 2 tortillas. I've got my onions ready. I've got my refried beans ready. I've got my salsa and my cheese. I've got chicken if I need it. I've got my cabbage slaw. Something else we like to do is eat grilled jalapenos. So I've got some grilled jalapenos. All right, so I'm going to test this. So I've got a non-stick pan right here, so I'm not putting any fat in here at all, no oil or anything. Let me check the screen while Hunter takes a shot of that to see if we have some questions. Nope, excellent. Okay, so I've got my pan up pretty warm. Now what I want is I want this to break up. What goes into the cabbage slaw? Well, what I bought was a kit. So the kit's got cabbage, red cabbage. It has its own cilantro, lime dressing, carrots, and some seasoning. What you could do is purchase some cabbage slaw and you could put some Pico De Gallo. You could finish it with salsa. You could put whatever you want into it. There's no real right or wrong answer for what I have in stuff today. It's all kind of personal preference. Now I want this fish to break up and cook all the way through to an internal temperature of 145. This thick piece will take the longest right here. You could also grill this fish, and it's kind of being poached in its own liquid here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my refried beans. I'm going to put a little dab on each tortilla. I've got a corner of my fish ready to go here. I can also use this wooden spoon if I wanted to chop this up nice. Boy, that smells good. Now I've got a little bit of my slaw. A little bit will go a long way. I've got my Pico de Gallo. I've got a garnish of my white onion. I've got some of my pickled onion. I've got my Queso Fresco. And I'm going to garnish mine with some cilantro. I'm going to add a few limes. I love my corn, so I'm going to add this. I'm also going to take one of the halves of the limes that we squeezed. I'm going to rub this on here. And what else do I have? I've got my grilled jalapeno. And there you go. Street tacos at the Back Burner Quarantine Cafe. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you as family enjoy this. Keep sending me your comments and suggestions through my CA email. I appreciate that. Hello to all the guys that gave me notes this week. Thank you so much. Let's check the questions really quick. Yummy, thanks. Can we do orange chicken next week? I don't know. I don't know if I can do orange chicken at home because I need a fryer. But I was thinking of something with some mango salsa, maybe some salmon or a grilled chicken. So let me think about the orange chicken. I appreciate everybody, and thanks for joining me, Chef Paul, on Back Burner. See you next week.